All right, welcome to season 3. Holy smokes, we are here. We have made it. We have survived 52 episodes. Welcome to it. How we doing, Frederick?
We're good. We're good, Seth. What's going on over there, man?
3 seasons,
Seasons.
man. So in all the madness that it is, being the third season, I don't really know much more we're gonna do. I feel like because season 3, we are at the pinnacle. We are 6 days away from the Royal Rumble, and I feel like that's probably the best possible case scenario that it worked out to have this be the essentially we're the episode basically into the road to WrestleMania. And I
Right.
and I think, what are the odds? I'm glad it happened. So let's kind of break down, what we do as we do as far as Raw and SmackDown. I really think that Netflix, I don't want to say like botched, I don't want to say like underselling, but when they released the whole thing for Netflix, they had that first episode. It was booming with intensity and good storylines and all this stuff. And now, as we are, it just seems to be, I don't want to say complacent. I don't want to say back to the status quo, but that's kind of how it feels. And it's kind of a miss. It's kind of like, oh yeah, now we're on Netflix. Let's have this great first episode, and then the rest of it just goes as normal. And maybe that's just because what, we got the contract, so we're gonna go back to how we do, and that's fine, I guess. So being that we are obviously on the road to WrestleMania, we're Royal Rumble is Saturday. Obviously, we'll get to that. There's only really a handful on each side, Raw, SmackDown, that we have confirmed for the Royal Rumble. So we'll get to those. So we have again this. I feel like we've ran this Jey Uso and Gunther thing back before. I want to say they fought before, but I think it was for the IC
Yeah.
title. And so we all know that Gunther really is going to essentially hold that title till at least WrestleMania.
Yep.
So as much faith as we have, in Jey Uso and the energy and everything that he has, he's not the guy. And I don't feel bad saying that, because and I
Yeah.
feel like Gunther is a better champion than Cody Rhodes, and Gunther's only had it for a quarter of the time. And I say that because Cody is like, his matches that he's had were very blah. They weren't really top tier. And then you look at Gunther and how Gunther wins. Like, I like the bruteness of Gunther more than I like the simple, like the fancy, ring, whatever you want to call it, for Cody Rhodes. His match style is it's predictable. It's the same thing. And I honestly, I'm more about the guy that can literally just destroy people, that Gunther is. So, I mean, what do you think as far, like, do you think Gunther's reign is literally, do you feel like it's better than Cody Rhodes?
From a booking standpoint, it's about the same. They both have both champions have these uh best of three series matches and builds up before they move on to the next person. They've ran it back with on a couple of different occasions with the same people. Um, with Gunther, it was Damian Priest. With Cody, it's been Kevin Owens. So I think they have booked them kind of the same. The problem that people have with Cody's championship run is what we've talked about before, is just, it's bloodline related. And
Right.
until they wash their hands of the bloodline, anybody with that championship will have like a new shiny toy kind of vibe from the audience, and then it'll
Right.
immediately drop down because bloodline. And with Jacob
Right.
Fatu, like, really just, starting to come out of his shell, so to speak, um, it's going to be hard not to want to see Jacob as a champion.
Right.
On the flip side of that, with Gunther to me is like, and I've heard it said a couple of times on the internet, that he kind of reminds people of an old school champion, old school heel champion, where he has a solid ring knowledge, and he is just one step or two steps ahead of everyone else. But the people that they've put him in the ring with exception of a Damian Priest, have
Yeah.
not been the same caliber of performer, or not a similar style of performer who has an extensive ring knowledge, who comes off as a very technical and very confident wrestler. I thought it was Chad Gable at first when they started doing these matchups where Chad Gable would get, a good singles championship.
Yeah.
It just didn't happen. And
Yeah. I
then,
mean, they
yeah, it's
they with Chad Gable, it just it was. I mean, he was good. He just wasn't better. And I think that's I think that's kind of where Chad Gable falls. Unfortunately, I don't think he's kind of this one of many faction groups that kind of they talk the talk but they don't walk the walk. Um,
mm, yeah,
but I think we're I think we're at a balanced ratio of the faction groups on both shows. So I don't think we're not oversaturated. Now, I don't think anything new should come anytime soon. I don't think anybody's reuniting for any reason. I don't think we're gonna get any more. We're just basically gonna sit with basically two on each show and just kind of run it. Um,
yeah,
and I think that's just how it's gonna go. We don't want you don't want to oversaturate with these groups because we all know the groups interfere and we don't need every match to be interfered with. We need clean matches. And I think we're all advocates for like let's stop having outside interference on 90% of the matches.
yeah.
It gets boring.
Yep. It
But
does. Yeah, it's an old trope. Let's let them just go at it, and if they like cheat in a match to get that heat and build a story, that's fine. But
yeah,
to have, like,
it's not
you know,
every time though. Like if it has a reason and has a purpose, that's fine. But
yeah,
I digress. So we've been having the New Day basically continue to try to get words in edgewise to explain themselves, and they continually run out of time. And so again, they're just rustling feathers in back, and they just happen to rustle one of the honest to God, probably the longest current performer on the roster. I think Rey Mysterio is probably the most experienced current roster that actually wrestles. Like I know R-Truth's been there for a long time, but like active wrestling on a semi-permanent basis, I think Ray definitely has that locked in. And for being, I think we looked it up last week, he was like 50, and he
yeah,
wrestles like he's 20. And so obviously, so Rey Mysterio obviously defeats Kofi Kingston. Um, Xavier comes, and it's becoming kind of nonsense. Now you basically have the New Day basically kind of being heelish, and then you have LWO basically kind of helping out Ray. And I think that's good for Rey Mysterio just because he still is 50. And I think
Yeah.
for him to have a little backup, and that's the thing is like the LWO is not one of those factions I was talking about. They're a group, but I wouldn't say they're a faction. And I think the difference, I think, is like you have your factions that are so prevalent on the shows, like your Final Testament, your OG Bloodline, regular Bloodline. You have Final Testament. These are more factions. Like you have groups, but they're not always out there together. Judgment Day is always out there together, and so there's a difference between groups and factions for me.
Okay.
But and so I think LWO is more of a group, more of a collective. And sometimes they come out with a couple, but like they're not the people that are doing outside interference every time.
Yeah.
They're honestly clean matches when it comes to LWO. So, but so we continue to have this Kevin Owens wine bag story, holding a title he didn't even win. It's not even a relevant title, and I think it's honestly just dumb and it's goofy. Like one, you didn't even win the match against Cody when he had the title, so it makes zero sense. Okay, and the fact that we're gonna run this match back at Royal Rumble again is stupid. And like Royal Rumble is like the road to WrestleMania, and you're gonna play back a match you just had. Like you
You know,
can't like it, and that's why I say Gunther's more relevant than Cody, because what do you like? You keep the Cody keeps on running back the same handful of people. Like if you really
y-
think about it, like how long have
and
we been
I,
doing this Kevin Owens thing?
you know what? I think it's just booking. I would want to say like maybe 6 to 8 weeks we've been doing this, but you know what? It's been a little bit longer because he couldn't get the job done. Back, what was it? SummerSlam.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah. It
he
was
couldn't get the
it
job done, and that's when started his heel turn. Um, and then we had Hell in a Cell. No, we had Survivor Series with a Hell in a Cell match, and what put him over the edge is with Cody. Um,
helping out Roman.
yep. So I think that's like,
It was a slow progression, and it's just
yeah,
gotten worse the last. We've really, I mean, we've been kind of dealing with this for a while, because whether it was Kevin having a problem with Sammy doing whatever he's doing,
yep.
and and then then you have Randy, and then you have, and so like Kevin's just on this like complaining tour, and like and some of his stuff that he says is relevant. Some of his stuff does actually make sense, but
Mm, I find challenge in that, you know, but I think that's what makes it interesting for both sides, or both people that are like, you know, that want to either, support Cody or support Kevin. That dynamic makes it interesting.
yeah,
I just think that it is a bit boring, but Kevin is really making this interesting. Kevin is taking, in his character work, he's taking the offensive, and he's really like digging in to make himself the heel, to make Cody seem like the babyface
yeah,
champion, you know. And
yeah.
you got to commend that, because a lot of people would struggle with that, because people don't see them as that, as a heel. With Kevin, he's really digging into it, and it really is helping Cody's championship run by putting him in these types of situations where he can stay a face,
Well,
because
and
otherwise they
I
would,
yeah,
they were going to boo him out of the building, and he would have it would have just it would have been reminiscent of to where he was previously, where he could not get over for anything. And
yeah.
I
I
don't
mean,
think,
and I
WWE
and I
wants that.
think he for the script he's been given, he is doing a phenomenal job.
Right.
And whether and obviously, like we said, wrestling, it's stories, it's written, it's scripted, and so like whatever they have him doing, he's doing a good job, right? Like you
Right.
basically get dealt the hand you're dealt, and hey, this is what you're doing for a little while, and maybe we'll see something down the road. And I don't see Kevin Owens really changing too much, honestly. I'm still lobbying for heel Cody, but that's you me cheering for wanting heel Cody is you wanting R-Truth for champion. So
Yes.
it's neither here
Yep.
nor there, but it's a good pipe
Yep.
dream.
Yeah, it is.
So
Yep.
okay, so again we have Nia Jax defeats Bailey. Obviously, I mean and again a clean match. Like I appreciate a good solid match, and I really feel like I've been paying attention to the women's wrestling in the time in which they get, and it's better than it was. It's still about 15 to 18 minutes. I think I roughly guesstimated, which is actually not that bad. Because honestly, men's matches are only usually about 20-24. So like, I think they've been giving them more time to showcase, and I think they've been utilizing the time that they've been given very wisely. I mean, there's there's a lot of athletic women on the roster,
Hmm.
and I think it's finally, they're getting their time to shine and they're knocking it out of the park. So I am all for it. I enjoy it. I think it's good because, you know, we don't want these like quick matches. You know what I'm saying? Like we still have them here and there, and that's
Right. We do.
fine. But like a lot of those matches are usually squash matches anyways. So like when you get two phenomenal female athletes, you want to let them run the table.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. Yeah.
so
And I was thinking about that. I just think that who they choose to give those opportunities to are kind of insulting. Like Shayna Baszler and Natalia should have both been champions, singles champions before before like a Ronda Rousey, before like a Charlotte Flair. But because they don't come off as being as charismatic as others, it it
yeah,
it seems like it doesn't help them, but they are both much more believable than like
well, and I think
like
some
Nyla
of that,
Dawn or
yeah, I think some of it though
Lyra
is
and
honestly
yeah,
just is that they had the time and they missed the mark with them. And it doesn't mean that they're not relevant and they're not talented. It's just it's booking, right? We've said this a million times over is that sometimes the booking's just not there. And and Shayna should have had it years ago.
yeah,
Natalia, when Natalia was kind of in her, I'd say her top of her level of wrestling, she's surrounded by the four horsemen. And so like or the horsewomen. And so like that was the big thing back then. And now we're basically in this era of a overwhelming amount of NXTs getting called up and getting opportunities. So like they just missed the mark with a lot of people. And the thing is, but at the end of the day, though, some of them like they're okay with it. They're okay to put away, put over talent because they love the business. They love what they do. They love having a job. They love being involved in what they love to do. And sometimes it just is what it is, you know, because full well that Natalia is going to be in the business decades beyond her in ring career,
yeah. I
and
you
because
know
she has an overwhelming amount of knowledge for the female roster to be able to invest in them into the future. And I think it sucks that she's not. It sucks that
yeah,
Shayna's not. It sucks that a lot of people aren't. But I mean, what do
but I
you
think
do if you're not booked?
it to me it seems like something that can be rectified. It really does. And I would like to see Triple H and his creative team do something to honor those women. I don't see Shayna Baszler doing this past 43, 44.
Yeah.
I don't Shayna Baszler could have a Bull Nakano type, career where she's in her 50s and then she's
Oh
hanging
yeah,
it up.
and I
But at
and
but at that particular
she's not
time,
prevalent. She's not prevalent though. So like,
yeah,
the longevity can be there. And the thing is in like, there's nothing wrong with giving a title reign later in the career. I mean, literally wrestling started with people that are literally the oldest people on the roster right now. So like
right,
wrestling started when these guys were in their 40s. So like I don't buy the whole age thing because
yeah,
they're still relevant. I think there needs to be a moment when we, start giving opportunities to everyone else. And
mhm.
not like give them an opportunity that's a wash for them. Like give them an opportunity to hold it, even if it's for like a month. Like
You know what? I
I
mean,
don't care I
yeah,
don't care how long it is. They
we
just
didn't.
need that
It's
belt for a
it's
little bit.
crazy that Nikki Ash had that
Oh
character.
my gosh.
You
And
know what I'm
she
saying?
did.
And she got a championship
Yeah.
run, but
If
like
you can give
that's
that
all.
dumb gimmick a freaking
Yeah.
what that puts the realm of possibilities at pretty much anybody at this point. I mean,
Yep. And that's
and
and
I
that's and that's kind of how I feel. It's just like, excuse me, there are so many amazing, talented athletes and performers in this company, and some people that are so believable
oh yeah, I mean you
not
could
getting that rub, but yet
oh yeah. I
this
mean,
chick that's I know that doesn't weigh 100 pounds is a champion. Come on,
yeah.
bro.
I mean,
You
yeah, I mean there's a laundry list. I mean, obviously we could
know,
literally run down this pipe hole freaking for days. But
yeah.
I mean, we'll move along.
Yep.
But like, but I agree with you. There's so many talented athletes across the board, men, women, whatever, in WWE that have not got really anything to it. They're glorified jobbers. They barely get past the glass ceiling of mid card, and it sucks. But again, but that it sucks for us because we want what we want for the wrestlers that we watch.
Right.
And so, but this problem is that popularity is playing a favor now in the Triple H era. So maybe if we say it enough times, maybe we'll get it. You know.
Maybe.
So I mean, we need to go to live events all over and say we want R2 as champion,
Yep.
and we'll see what happens. We'll make sure we get those seats.
Yeah.
But so now that we've gotten Penta, and like his entrance just keeps on getting better. I mean, like the whole like spinning firework thing now he had last week, like it's just intense, and I like that they're really they're having him come in with a bang because he does have the resume, and he has the experience, and like for him, I'm okay with them entering him in like they have, not like Jade Cargill, who kind of had hype and really didn't have much of a resume, where they pushed her and it kind of didn't work. And so, like Penta, I'm okay with because Penta has, a resume, a mile long. And so, and there's no rust. There's no, like, he's not missing marks. Okay. Like, he's a polished professional wrestler and just deserve to, be where he's at. So
Yeah.
so he defeats Pete Dunne. Obviously, and Pete Dunne's one of the guys that I wish they would at least give a secondary title to.
Yeah,
Because
I really think that Pete Dunne is like another one of those guys that in the next couple of years he should hold a
oh yeah,
championship.
I mean, even
Yeah.
if it's an IC or US title, like he was phenomenal in NXT. Like, and I feel like sometimes they miss the mark when they bring them up because you bring up, for me who watches them on a weekly basis, and then like the main roster kind of does them dirty,
Yeah,
and
it's
so
like if you're not
it's
gonna have something that people can really like respond to and really get invested from watching them from NXT making that transition, it's like a waste. Like they could have just stayed in NXT and been absolutely positively you
well,
know
it's like having a college degree and you're working at McDonald's. Okay,
Yeah.
like it's you're misusing what and again, like the NXT universe is broad. I'm not the only one freaking watching. There's millions of people watching NXT, so like a lot of people know what these guys can do, what they're capable of, what the skill set is, and then they go to the main roster and then they kind of just like they get mixed in like sugar in a freaking pitcher of Kool-Aid.
Yeah.
Like, you're just in the mix with everybody else, and it's just like if you don't have a spot for them and they're doing fine in NXT, like then give them the money they're worth, but keep them in NXT. Like, you
Yeah,
know,
like yeah, allow them to like yeah, just allow them to
it's because if you want to consider NXT kind of a third brand, then
yeah.
let it just be a brand. They're starting to go back on the road now a little bit more, probably once a month, I think it is, or twice a month. And so they're starting to broaden the horizons. I would not be against them having NXT on the road because they
But
could they could do it. They could do it in, they've done it, after and they were in the same arena or let's say like 6 to 8 thousand people. I call them mini arenas, but like and they were filling those places out, so clearly they have the level of people that would come to them. And I get it, like you're because we talked a while back about this, about the fact that we don't know if they're going to be able to consistently do that. But I think the fact that when you're having these events, whether it's in St. Louis that one time or Chicago, and all these other places, like they're selling those things out.
mhm.
So like, it's better to try it out and see how it goes. And if they're selling 8, 10,000, then let it ride. And if you all of a sudden and you miss the mark and you have a couple emptier shows, then you bring it down a little bit. But I feel like you need to like let it see where it is up here, and if it doesn't, then okay, you missed the mark, no big deal. But if you hit it out of the ballpark, that's and you don't even have to have anything schwanky like stage wise or ring wise. Like it could be very simplistic. It could be literally, the old metal guardrails. You could make it very simplistic. You don't have to over, you don't have to overdo it with LED boards on the barricades and all the other stuff. Like
Yeah,
make it
I
simplistic.
don't think they would ever for NXT unless it was like a broadcasted show would ever invest in the logistics of making it a pay-per-view. I think a lot of NXT shows, house shows, are really kind of like the shows that were in the territories back in the day, where it is like
Well,
the
and
metal
well
railings, they're not protected, they
yeah.
come out, they're in high schools or gymnasiums or whatever have you, just for for WWE and these new performers to have a history of how it used to go and how if like things like tanked for professional wrestling, what they can still do to have these shows, and still make it, top notch.
Yeah.
So, I yeah, I don't know.
I mean, I feel like you just need to test the water a little bit. I mean, and they are, but they're all like, but if you watch it, I mean, because they're on CW, so they're on a branded thing. It's no longer just the WWE Network days where you can only watch it on that, or it was like telecast, but it wasn't recorded like live, and so like I think as deep as they've gone with NXT, it's been for what, like probably 10 years. I mean, NXT spit out literally 90% of the main roster right now, so they're doing something right.
Right, they are. I
So I
mean,
mean, but again, it's a wait and see. Let's see what Triple H wants to do. Let's see what The Rock wants to do. Let's see what TKO was willing to invest. And so we'll wait and see. And I think that's pretty much the general gist. I think how things are gonna go. I mean, like I said, with them already testing the markets, I feel like maybe in the next 2 years they'll just be another brand, and we'll be having this conversation, be like, well, I said it a long time ago.
Yeah.
So, but so Raw, we'll just continue it. So Io Sky and Dakota Kai defeat Shayna Baszler, Zoe Stark. Again, not really a match. I mean, it got pretty simplistic time. I wouldn't say it's anything too special. I feel like, I kind of sucked that Dakota Kai obviously lost in for the the women's IC thing, but I think the ship must go on, and I think it definitely is going to take her to be wrestling more often to get to that tier versus kind of this comeback that she had after 1,000 injuries. So I think
Yeah.
we'll see where things pan out for her. So man, I feel like these matches are kind of repetitive, but okay. So Seth Rollins defeats Drew McIntyre. Um, at the end of the match, basically Sammy ends up haluva kicking freaking Seth, and they kind of have a
Yeah.
thing, and basically off TV, they basically you could see him on the ramp talking, and it's kind of like whatever. It's because it happens all the time. So,
It, it,
but
it, yeah.
so rolling over to Smack It Down. Well, Cody had another same do-gooder speech. I mean, I don't even really want to even talk about it. It was pretty much the same. It was pretty much the same spiel that we get from Cody all the time.
And
You
I
know,
think that's like the baby face,
it
the baby face thing. And I am not mad at that. It's time and time again, you just like keep repeating it. You know, I don't it's very rare that you can get a baby face to
to do
that
something different.
doesn't yeah, that doesn't look or sound or act like a face, but they act like a heel. Prime example, Randy Orton versus The Fiend. Randy Orton was, has always been like the villain because he had just came off of doing that story with Edge,
Yeah,
and we still had bad vibes about Randy, but it's very rare that you can have a performer have that type of character where he can just go any way.
yeah.
And
Randy Orton is a rare breed. We'll just put it that. I mean,
yeah,
it's you can he could be a heel and you still love him. Like I don't. He's just a likable person. Like whether he's doing good or doing bad. So,
yeah,
but yeah, I mean, speech, whatever. I mean, it is what it is. He's just he's a company man. He's a yes man. It's been the shtick since he's been champion. So Motor City Machine Guns are basically trying to work their way back into um their title, the tag team titles again.
right,
I definitely think that, as much as Pretty Deadly is kind of, jobbers, I still think they have a fun gimmick. I mean, I think honestly, this whole like play things they've had or like musicals and like I think they're having fun doing whatever they're doing, even if it's silly or goofy. And I think that that's the definition of you just use the time you get to do what you do. And I think it's fun. I think Elton Prince and Kit Wilson they're just fun. They're just fun guys. They're just fun to watch. I don't see any miracles coming their way anytime soon, but I'm okay with it. I think they do the job they're asked to do. So basically, according to so for the Royal Rumble, basically since we've gotten a couple matches on it, but yeah. So long story short, Motor City Machine Guns basically is getting a 2 out of 3's fall match. against DIY, made by the one, the only. See, this is how important his name is.
Nick
This is
Aldis.
freaking, yeah. There you go.
Yeah, Nick Aldis. Yep.
So I mean, that'll definitely be interesting to watch. So Kevin comes out doing what Kevin does. Jimmy's like, no, don't think so. You're annoying. Blah blah blah. I mean, leads into a match. I mean, these times when they have these segments in the ring by themselves and then someone interrupts them and then it turns into a match is like the biggest trope of all. Like,
Yeah.
and so like it happens so repetitively. It's like they might say they're gonna have like 2 or 3 matches on the card, but we know full well that like another couple will happen throughout the night. So, but
Yeah.
you know what? I mean, recipe, man. I mean, if it ain't
That's
broke, don't fix it.
that
So,
is yeah.
yeah. So Meechin and B-Fab defeat Chelsea Green, Piper Niven. Pretty solid match, honestly. Um, Chelsea Green's pretty messed up in her face. I don't know if you've seen anything after, but like she got wrecked something fierce. But
Mm,
you know,
I did not.
it's yeah, it's they're like
Well, time.
they showed like a before match and after match, and she just looks a hot mess. But you know, run it. So so you know, see, this is what I kind of like, these segments that just don't make sense. So Tiffany Stratton basically, you know, was chatting at Rhea or at Nia Jax. Rhea comes out, does what they do, and here comes Candice. Like this whole then Liv and Raquel, and they do all this blah blah blah, and leads to a match again, the trope. So like, man, yeah, nothing really. Honestly, I would really touch on that match. Honestly, it was pretty boring. It was pretty complacent. It was pretty much the same recipe, the same cookies, the same basic ass plain yogurt matches we get. So I don't even want to waste time because we still have so much to get to. So Apollo Crews defeats Johnny Gargano, and honestly, I'm glad Apollo Crews finally gets a match in the ring and not him getting beat up and back. Okay, like truest definition of I do what I'm told, and if I get some TV, if I get a match, cool. So you know, good on him, okay? Good on him. And you know
Yep.
what? He even got a dub in his, you know, long
You know,
waited.
I think that's yeah, I think that's the surprise of everyone is when, it surprises everyone when someone unexpected gets the win and, it's like, oh, it's kind of like throwing someone a bone, you know. I wish it would have like made sense. Like it would lead into like a couple of more opportunities to perform, you know. But by the way, going back to Chelsea Green, it is she's definitely did get a couple of owies. I mean, it's not much to like talk about, but because of Chelsea Green, it's a big deal. So yeah, those are owies, but you know, I'm not mad about it. Good for her. Hey, you're on mute.
See, every so often, like I'm bouncing between screens because I try to like not vape into the mic. And so you know what? Every so often I will just be like, you know. So, but anyways, so LA Knight defeats Tamatanga. Jacob Fatu obviously gets involved, and here comes Braun Strowman, and so that basically will lead us to the match at Saturday Night Main Event between those two. But we'll get to those. And so to the thing that I you know, I feel like I'm getting good at predicting things. So, you know, not to toot my own horn, but so Damian Priest is now on SmackDown. So, and I've said probably a couple weeks ago, last week, I don't know. I know I said it though. And I literally said the only way Damian Priest is going to get away from the mess is if he literally just switches shows altogether. And Carmelo Hayes found out the hard way because he's Mr. Lippy, he's Mr. Egomaniac, he's Mr. I'm the best thing since sliced bread. But boy, got a freaking Brooklyn beatdown from Damian Priest. Like, there's no other way to put that match to describe it than Carmelo got his ass kicked, okay? Like, and I am happy. I am ecstatic that Damian Priest is now on SmackDown, and now he doesn't have to deal with any Judgment Day nonsense. But my only issue, though, is Rhea's still there. And so that is my concern.
So I don't mind Rhea going by herself, just like I don't mind Damian Priest by himself on SmackDown. They both can hold their own. If there's an opportunity, if there's an opportunity for them to do work again, I think it'll be good. But I also think, they both need to go their separate ways to have that. It'll make it more exciting when they do reunite. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, I just don't want it to get overly ingested, with, Rhea basically dealing with, Judgment Day on her own. I feel like that stuff needs to dissipate.
Well, I think you'll get your wish because I think Judgment Day will implode like at the Royal Rumble, and they'll all just go their separate ways. So it won't be like like this gang mentality against Rhea.
Right.
Everybody will be like, we all, I think a lot of people's true colors will show up in the Royal Rumble, and I think that it'll be fine. It'll be totally fine.
That is not a prediction. That is a spoiler. Are you honing in your inner?
I will say, yep, I will say it's a spoiler. Judgment Day implodes at the Royal Rumble.
I'm going to be waiting on pins and needles now for your prediction to come true. Your spoiler.
You know what? Don't do that. It's a waste.
I will wait. I will wait with and if it doesn't happen, I'll be like, well,
can't guess them all.
Can't predict them all.
Yep.
So, I honestly don't really want. Like SmackDown, Kevin Owens defeats Jimmy Uso. Really nothing too entertaining there because it's just more bloodline related stuff, and that's pretty much SmackDown. So Saturday Night Main Event, man, I actually thought it was good, for being what it was, just because it is essentially the week before the Royal Rumble, and for them to kind of stack these matches, and I thought were pretty good. Rhea Ripley defeated Nia Jax in an absolute crazy match. I really honestly thought Rhea was going to get hurt. Just because, you could see her during the match kind of struggle, not because Nia Jax is a big girl, but like just because it seemed like her back was a little bit hurt. I could be wrong. It could just be a play, but obviously she defeats Nia Jax, which I'm all for it. Now the Intercontinental match with Braun Breaker and Sheamus, I'm still not happy about, and I think I'm not alone because I don't care how they give Sheamus his IC title to complete his Grand Slam. I want it for him. He's been waiting probably I guess technically his whole career. He's got everything else. He's got tag titles. He's got world champion. And like the IC means more right now just to complete his Grand Slam. And they've been ducking and dodging him for really the last probably 4 or 5 years. They'll give him an opportunity and then he'll lose and whatever else. And don't get me wrong, Braun Breaker is a beast. Okay. It was a good match. It was definitely on the banger level. It was a good match. I just wish they would finally give Sheamus the title. I don't care. I mean, like, and I know we talked beforehand about, like it probably needs to be like a high level PLE or something just so he can get that real big crowd pop. But
Yeah.
I feel like at the same token, like they've been doing that and they've been ducking and dodging him. So like, they just need to pull the trigger on giving him that title, and that's I feel like that's what a lot of people want because he's been waiting a long time.
He has, and I think that, man, I just don't I just don't know what to expect when it comes, like, what happens afterwards with him,
I mean, even if he rides up
what's
into the
next?
sunset with that title, like I'm okay with it. you know, like I don't think he's done by any stretch. I mean, I think he's been in the business for close to 20. And so like I don't doubt his longevity. I just feel like, you know, that would just be like a to end his Hall of Fame career, right? Like,
Right.
you know, it doesn't have to be the full-fledged anything. I just want him to get the title, and then if he chooses to be done, at least he finished a Grand Slam champion. So
Yeah, I him finishing as a Grand Slam champion, I think is really a nicety to have. Um, I don't necessarily find anything. I wouldn't be upset with him not getting that Grand Slam championship. I because I would be more upset with how he was utilized and booked. You When there's exceptional performers that resonate with, you know, the crowds, and people like really like their matches and like them as characters and that sort of thing. I really think that you you can be rewarded in certain levels. And with someone having the longevity he has had and having to do the work that he's had to do, you know, I really think that it's a good nod, especially when that character is on their way out. And I think I don't see Sheamus being a full-time performer within the next couple of years. And I don't see him, I see him like retiring from in ring within the next 4, 5, maybe max.
he's
Um,
he's on his 23rd. He, I mean, obviously on the main roster, has been probably close to 20, but yeah. So he's debuted in like 2002.
right.
So that, like, however you want to slice it, that's honestly a long ass career. So,
That
but
is,
yeah, I mean, and
and
like, well, and the problem is now is that like nowadays wrestlers were measured differently now than they were back then, right?
right.
Because
Yep.
now it's like judged based on if you winning all of the different titles versus back in the day when it like most of the Hall of Famers in there didn't hold every title. And realistically, a lot of them there wasn't even those options for those titles. So like, and so I think it's just a different era of wrestling. But like, I Sheamus could go in the Hall of Fame this year, and I would be just as ecstatic, whether he has that IC title thing or not. Now, I think it's kind of weird that Rey Mysterio went to the Hall of Fame, but he's still wrestling. Like, I feel like that's a little bit weird. Like, I mean, he's a Hall of Famer, no doubt. It's just a lot of times the Hall of Fame is for non-current, you know, current roster, and so
You know,
like
I don't know. I mean, it's like the Hall of Fame is like this its own like weird entity, in the sense of it just depends on who you are and where
yeah, I
you
mean, but
are in
like
your career.
there's plenty of people that literally could have gone though. Like that's my thing is that like there's a 100-mile long list of people they could put in the Hall of Fame that would have had the same pizzazz as Rey Mysterio. And obviously I think Rey Mysterio should have been, he should be done a long time ago, but like the
I
guy
mean,
won't freaking give up.
You
You
know,
know?
I think Sting has proven that as long as you can do the work and resonate with the crowd and your body holds up and you are
Oh yeah.
protected in the ring, that you can go. I mean, Terry Funk unfortunately had um he should have hung it up several times before he finally hung it up. And it's unfortunate because a lot of older performers, older wrestlers don't have the protections that some of the newer wrestlers now
Yeah.
have. You know,
Right.
it's kind of, it's akin to, you know,
Like
child
they're
actors,
still in there, but they're also getting protected at the same time.
no, I'm talking about like that and like the financial protections or
Right.
the
Oh
health
yeah, yeah.
protections. It's like, you know,
It's
yeah,
if you get
it's
injured, you're covered.
you're
You're not
there
getting
are
left
people
hung
that
out to
still
dry.
remember you that are willing to be like, "Yo, thank you for repping my childhood. I got you, my guy. Your
Right.
GoFundMe, we're gonna help." Or, people coming out of the woodworks to like, really like help out people. Like a Sting and a DDP have been like, really instrumental in like helping a lot of the performers that they came up with, like
Yeah.
spiritually and physically, and giving them second and third and fourth chances when they didn't,
Oh yeah.
when
I
they yeah.
mean,
So
DDP is a class act through and through.
oh yeah, definitely,
I mean,
totally.
and like what he's done beyond the ring is nothing short of miraculous.
Yeah,
And I
with a
think
lot of
that
people.
that's such a good thing. Like yes, you're always going to be DDP. You're always going to, you're always going to be, but at the same token, you're also using that level that you have to basically resonate beyond the ring. And
Yeah.
I think it's honestly a lot of them. It really is tough to function outside of the business when you've done it for so long. It's I mean, I'm sure it's got to be hard. You have to like reassimilate with the regular day to day. I mean, and in a lot of them back in the day, they didn't have the breaks we have now.
Yeah,
You
a
know,
lot of them didn't.
it Ray was an absent dad. You know, it- I'm sure Eddie was on the road. The Rock's dad was on the road. The Rock was on, and so like, it's a very thin line to walk, especially when you have a family, you have everything else, and still to be doing the business. That's why, and I know people hate him, but like, the Miz is a prime example of balance. And if you ever see him at like a live show, like he's there with his wife, he's there with his kids, like, and he's a very genuinely nice person. Like, I know you see him on the TV and he's whatever character, but like at the end of the day, like, he's found that sweet spot of balance, of being a professional wrestler, but being a husband, being a father. Like, that's hard to do, you
Yeah,
know and
I would
nowadays,
agree.
nowadays, I feel like it's easier, obviously, just because, like, with like Seth Rollins and Becky Lynch, and Rue and everything else, like, it's becoming easier now because the leadership isn't so shoving the job down your throat and not letting you do that balance. And
Yeah,
so, obviously, I think with Triple H, obviously, I feel like the leash is a lot longer, and I think that having a family and being a professional wrestler are feasible things to do.
yeah, yeah,
But
and it is, and yeah, I agree. Yep, I agree.
yeah, so oh man, so we have the contract signing between Cody Rhodes and Kevin Owens. Basically, I don't even know what you even use the terminology to facilitate. That's what the word I was looking for. So you had, Houston, or you had Texas own Shawn Michaels, and you know what? I love Shawn Michaels. Okay, like the fact that his music still resonates the way it does, he's there's very rare that have actually sang their own entrance music, okay, and that music hits and it still feels like I'm a kid again, okay, like and him coming out or like when like handfuls of years ago, like when he kind of did a little bit of comeback with Triple H and he does that pose and everything, like oh man, can't say enough about Shawn Michaels, okay, like and so he facilitates the whole thing, and and Kevin's doing this whole yada yada, and Shawn Michaels is like, you sound jealous. like, like just blunt. And so like obviously we finally get all this stuff. Kevin tries to pull a fast one and ends up getting the sweetest chin music you'll ever
And
see.
he
And
sold that so well. There's like a still on the internet of just
oh
Kevin just
yeah, I'm
like
looking at it,
taking it.
dude. It's
Yeah. It's
you
a
know, and
really
and I and he's like the OG, okay, like of basically making that a absolutely crazy move, and it was more about the build up than it was the move itself, like the whole like smacking your foot down and then all of a sudden waiting for it, and like man, and like everybody does it now as a casual move, but no one presents it like Mr. WrestleMania himself, okay, like there's just a difference in how Shawn Michaels does the sweet chin music or the super kick, whatever you want to call it.
mhm.
And it's the presentation, man. And especially because he has cowboy boots on, okay? So Kevin Owens had to take that perfectly because boy ain't wearing sneakers, okay? like,
That's true. That is so true.
so and the fact that he did it so and Shawn Michaels did that so clean and so well with boots on, absolute respect.
Yeah, I think that is the difference between people that have been in the business for as long as Shawn Michaels has and Kevin Owens, and has so many like their timing and their position in ring position is
Oh,
just, I mean, it's so well.
it's ring IQ on a different level. And like
Yeah.
and I love the like, these veterans are still back there, and they're still, breathing wisdom into the younger generation of wrestlers.
Hmm.
And that's what keeps the business going, okay? Like I was saying about, the Natalias and, the list of people that really haven't gotten opportunities, but they are damn sure voices, coaches, wisdom bringers of, the new roster, and the much younger roster. I mean, our roster is quite young right now. Like, so
Yeah.
I definitely, you know what? Everybody has a place in the business and everybody's invested in the business. And that's why WWE is the best professional wrestling in the world because there's people still around. They might not be in the ring on TV, but they are in the ring pre gaming and helping, the new generation perfect it and make it look so seamless. Because yeah,
Hmm.
there's quote unquote mistakes that happen. Don't call them botches or get beat up for that. But like, there's mistakes that happen in the ring, but like, you're doing it live, okay? Like, I'm sorry, like these people are genuine athletes, and there's one take, okay, one take. So, but let's get to the bread and butter. So obviously we have one match in the night, and we have the main event. But Braun Strowman and Jacob Fatu.
Oh
Now,
goodness.
if you want a monster beater, Jacob Fatu is your man. Okay, like it was gruesome, but in a sort of like Jacob Fatu like is getting that push. Okay, literally
Yeah.
the week prior, Solo basically, and they said the plans changed last second, right? And so he walks off, and Jacob Fatu cuts a promo straight out of like street wrestling promo that you could possibly make, like just cut it to the T. And then he shows up, at Saturday Night Main Event and faces Braun Strowman, and holy hell, okay, like I said, that was not gonna be a fight. That was gonna be a brawl. No bread, just me. heat, as you know, we can't talk like freaking
Yeah.
Booker T, but like, I mean, that's pretty much what it was, and it was nothing short of that either. So like, I was like, I don't even care who wins. Like, I just know this is going to be an absolute fight, and man, I feel
It
bad for the
was.
next person that gets in the ring with Jacob Fatu.
You know, I think what I like, again, what I like about Jacob Fatu is that there is a level of just absolute believability of terror that he presents. Um, and I'm okay with that. I think that's something that people are missing in their professional wrestling. Like there are only a handful of people that saw what kind of what kind of
Oh
monster
yeah,
uh, Bruiser Brody was. Like I didn't know that human existed until roughly maybe 10 years ago, and I still don't know a lot about his matches other than like if
it's
he, like he
insane,
was like the
and
type
it's
of like person he was, like, you know, when it came to those matches. um
well, and he's so polished too. Like the
yeah.
big, like, I mean, he literally is getting on the top rope, jumping off, all in one fluid motion, and hitting like the cleanest. I don't know what you can call like a Samoan whatever. I don't know, but
Yeah.
like he just hits it so clean, and it's like he's a big boy. Okay, like he's like Braun Strowman but in shape. Okay, like it's the agility of this guy is something out of like a WWE game, okay? Like,
Yeah.
and so yeah, I mean, I'm actually like I'm loving this. Like, I want to see Jacob Fatu win the Royal Rumble right now. Like, that's where I want to be. I want to be
I
like
would
he
not be
gonna run
surprised.
roughshod, Roman gone, John gone, CM Punk gone. He's just gonna throw him. Like,
Yeah, I would
I
not be
hope
surprised that
I
he's
hope he's in the Royal Rumble. Like, even if he doesn't win, I want him to get down to like the last four. Because I don't want CM Punk to win. I know our CM Punk enthusiast is not here to combat
unfortunate to
me.
defend Mr.
Yeah, so
CM Punk.
I'll probably get a phone call tomorrow, but like I'm over CM Punk being back. I'm over it. I'm over the entitlement. You did leave. You did talk shit about the company. You did what you did. And then you come back and people all of a sudden, out of pure nostalgia, like, cool, cool, REO Speedwagon came back for a nostalgic tour. Congratulations. But that's all it is the nostalgic tour. Go home to your wife and dog. Okay. Like we have too much going on for you to take away from everybody else. Like you did your time, you left, you did whatever, that's fine. And I'm just over you being here. That's my CM Punk rant. Not editing that. But no, I just it's I'm really hoping that the person that wins the Royal Rumble is like the eighth or ninth person that you'd think would win it. Because like the people that have basically entered, so you have John Cena, Roman Reigns, CM Punk, Seth Rollins, Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn, Shinsuke Nakamura have all confirmed for the Royal Rumble match. Now, I don't like in this I feel like this is honestly one of the most stacked Royal Rumbles we've had in a long time. Because now Roman's not champ. Seth Rollins is
Yep.
not champ. Drew
Yep.
McIntyre is not champ. Like this is going to be probably one of the biggest stacked Royal Rumbles we've had in a long time. Because all those guys I just mentioned basically were champions at some point in time, with the exception of obviously like Sami Zayn or whatever. But like, these guys were all top tier before. And the fact that now they're just Joe Schmoes, okay? Like they ain't hold no titles. They're just, let's see what they do in the Royal Rumble. You know, like let's see if that prestige of you being a champion, and let's see what you do, right? Like let's see how you perform when you're performing against a plethora of top tier.
Mm-hmm.
You know, because it's like, I don't have to pin you, Roman. I just gotta throw you over the ropes. You know,
Yeah.
and so like this isn't a, who's the strongest, who's the baddest, who's whatever, who's top tier. No, this is literally a matter of throwing people over the top rope. Like this is not about like this is about who lasts the longest and who outlasts the other 29 guys. Like
Yeah.
this is not a who pins me 1, 2, 3. Like no, this is not that match. So
And
I think
I think we're gonna see a lot of people. I think we're gonna see a lot of stars get made. I think we'll have like. I would not be surprised if Jacob Fatu again, gets the push and gets a standout performance. Um, I do think there'll be a couple comedy spots, and I think John Cena will have a couple of surprise eliminations. Outside of that, sheesh, you know,
it's just too hard to even comprehend. Because really, like I said, this is going to be the most stacked Royal Rumble we've had in a long time. Like this isn't just, there's going to be like a handful of gimmicks and filler, like you said, like, But I look forward to who they put up from NXT. Like, you know, I know Obafemi's champion, but that is him being in a Royal Rumble, that'd be fantastic. Trick Williams, I'm all for it. Like I think I think there's going to be at least 4 to 5 NXT wrestlers in the Royal Rumble. I think there's going to be let's say 5 surprises. Maybe some throwbacks, maybe like a Hurricane, or maybe Titus O'Neil comes out. Like there's going to be a couple that are like, yeah, you're not going to win it, but it's really cool to see you, right?
mhm.
And so maybe we'll see Shawn Michaels just for fun. You know, we know that The Rock's going to be involved. Like I don't think anybody's thinking that he's not. Okay, like I think for all intents purposes, he could enter himself as number 31. And I know that's far fetched, but he's on the board of TKO, so he can kind of do what he wants. And he's already shown he can kind of do what he wants. So I mean, would I want it to happen? Not really. Is it probable? Maybe not, but it could happen. You know. So I mean, I got and it's like now we're so we have like I said we have 7 men confirmed and 6 women confirmed. That literally all happened in like one segment. It was kind of weird. Like I literally told Led last week that the women's Royal Rumble, like the people that are gonna declare are it's gonna be like just one big massive wave. And it was like
Yeah,
everybody in I mean, it was Bianca, Liv, Raquel, Liv, like it was like Naya, like it was all the people like just real quick, like, yeah, I'm gonna be in the Royal Rumble. Like,
and I think that is just. I think, like we said before, it really shows the investment that WWE has with the women's product as
mhm.
opposed to not with the women's product. Um, there seems like to be a lot more care when it
Right.
comes to the men's product. Um, and what I would like to see is I would like to see them give the same level of attention to the women as they give to the men. Um, Even though we know that more men watch the product, more men spend their resources with that, but at the same time, we've got to be able to we just got to be able to push the women and push the women in such a way that they feel equal. because they are equal in every way. It's just,
Well, and
you
I
know,
think it too. Like I said earlier in the podcast, was that like about how these women's matches are getting a little bit more time. And like the thing is, the Royal Rumble, honestly, like the time is pretty even keel. And so, the men's is usually about an hour 20, hour and a half tops.
mhm.
And a lot of them, I mean, they've won the Royal Rumble. Like, I think it was Edge that won start to finish or something like that, and it was like an hour, like 15, hour 20. So like, I mean, I really think that we're in, like, it's not necessarily like equality as far as like the amount of matches and blah blah. Like, I think it's the presentation of the product needs to be equal, right? Like, stop
Yeah.
giving these women these little squash matches
You
because,
have
like I
these
said,
quick 5-6 minute matches. Yeah, yeah.
and so I think, we're gonna see, just because, again, like, I feel like this is the most stacked roster we have currently, just because there's, a lot of NXT have come up over the last 4 or 5 years, and they're studs now. And so, like, we still have plenty of NXT left, that could be in the Royal Rumble. I definitely think I would say honestly, I would say on both men and women's Royal Rumble, there's going to be probably 3 to 5 NXT. And, with the women, obviously, we have a very deep women's roster. So, like, I think 75% of the women on the roster right now will be in the match. And so I would say 25 are going to be, well, let's see, 20 main roster, 4 to 5 NXT, and then 4 to 5, surprises, right? And the problem is the women's surprises are never ones that you're going to worry about winning, right? Like I said about the men's, is that it's more about, hey, it's cool to see you, right? Like, to
Mhm.
get that pop, it doesn't matter if you're going to win it or not. It's just fun that you're there and, like, you're getting that moment.
Yeah,
And
but there's gotta be, like, a reasoning for it. You just can't just, like, turn it off like that, and turn it on. It's like, "Oh, you're just here, you know, you're just here because, oh, we wanna have a pop," and, you know,
I
let
mean,
it mean
but like,
something. Like,
I mean,
I
but it's only like
liked
but it's only a handful though. So it's not like, it's not impacting the match. It's just about the nostalgia of seeing them, and obviously it bears no impact on who wins it. Now, with the men, I mean, it's gonna narrow it down to Roman, John Cena, Jacob Fatu, and maybe The Rock. That's my final four, if I
I
had to
don't
think about it.
I don't even
Now,
see
with the
yeah,
women's, I really don't know. The
right.
women's, I have no idea. I would honestly, at the very least, Charlotte Flair. That's probably my only pick who I think would win it, or Becky Lynch. So Becky Lynch and Charlotte Flair are both returning. Becky Lynch doesn't quote unquote confirm, but she's had a lot of social media posts that would imply such. So I really think it's Charlotte Flair winning or Becky Lynch winning. I would prefer Charlotte Flair. And the reason why that is because, for as long as Charlotte Flair has been gone with injuries, I want her back. And she's a big missing piece of the women's division. Just because, not even just like the name and, a lot, like, but like, she's great on the mic. She has an ego unmatched. She puts on A+ matches, and, she's still chasing that 17th championship, right? Because she's at, I think, like 14. So the fact that, if you like, in I don't want anybody to beat 16. I don't. And I know, like, there's been talk of, John Cena going after number 17, but if he doesn't win the Royal Rumble, I feel like it's unlikely we're gonna have that 17th. So the only way for him that I think is viable to win a championship, to win that 17th, is if he wins Royal Rumble. If he doesn't win a Royal Rumble, he's gonna have a whole PLE 2025 tour of just, what do you call those matches?
They're just like,
Um,
like
it,
nostalgia
I
matches.
mean, yeah, you want those dream matches, right? So I
Right.
think if he doesn't win Royal Rumble, the rest of his time is nothing more than just dream matches. And I think that, and I would be okay with that. And so, I mean, do you really want him to win 17? I mean, do you after,
You know,
like,
I think,
I'm really against it. I
you
want it to be
know,
16. I want John Cena and Flair to be at to be on that
that
plane by
that
themselves.
that reminds me of the whole like urban legend, rumor, myth that the reason why uh, oh shoot, what is Barry Sanders didn't break Walter Payton's rushing record is because he had such a high respect for him.
Oh,
And then
yeah,
and
I
then
mean,
Walter Payton,
basically,
passed away, and and then he yeah.
so speaking of Barry, so if you watch the documentary, so Barry Sanders, greatest running back in history, period. I don't care that Emmett Smith has more yards than, he broke the record, right? I don't care. I don't, and just for a small snippet, it's comparing Barry Sanders and Emmett Smith is like comparing Michael Jordan and LeBron. Okay, just because you've played longer doesn't mean you're better. Just because you played longer and got the points record doesn't matter. Okay, like
Mhm.
Barry Sanders is the greatest running back of all time. Period. Okay, you look at what he had to do with what little he had.
Yeah, you know what? And I agree, but the having the same sentiment of like
But he was humble though.
not wanting someone to break a record, uh, it's kind of like, then why have the records anyway? You know, when it comes to that record, Ric Flair's record, I think it is something that should be pursued and should be someone's life goal, to be like, I want to be known as either the most dominant champion, defending champion, or I want to be known as someone who, you know, was resilient enough to go beyond this record of how many
Right.
individual championships that one person can hold, and
Yeah.
I
Well,
think
and the thing is that the era back then, it was easier to pile up quantity of titles, and I don't see anybody currently or even down to NXT like moving up. Like, I don't think that the number of title reigns will get beyond like 10 for anybody right now. Like, the only if the for the ones that have passed 10, that they're never going to get there again, because nowadays we're about how long you hold it, right? We're not about how many reigns you have, because it was a different wrestling product 10 years ago,
right,
and things happened more frequently. You got heavyweight matches on a Raw or SmackDown. Now it's just basically like you're only defending the title at a premium live event. And so we're not going to get those numbers again. It's not going to happen.
right,
And I think that's just the reality of current wrestling we have. Because from a dominant aspect, John Cena really wasn't a dominant champion. Like, he was a great champion. He was strong. He had, all the boxes checked for a champion. But, like, when you look at dominant champions, like, you look at the guy who has the longest amount of days, Bruno Sammartino. You look at dominance. You want to talk about dominance? Go back in the archives. Like, these right nowadays. It's just like, cool. You're a champion. You defend it once in a while. Bruno Sammartino's reign, as far as many times as it lasted, he defended his title an average of every 4 days. Every 4 days, he's defending it. Because when you look at those numbers of how many title defenses versus how long you've had it, yeah, he literally averaged every 4 days defending his title. Nowadays, you're like once a month. You know what I'm saying? And so, like, the quantities won't happen anymore because there's not enough title defenses for them to even worry about losing it.
Yeah, and I
Like,
think that has so much more to do with the product as a whole as it does with, you know, yeah, I think the product is as a whole as it does with like, oh, I want to defend this championship,
yeah,
every time I step in the
it's
ring.
yeah,
But at the same time, it's just like, no, that doesn't make any sense. That takes
it's the
that
booking
takes
now.
away from the product. Yeah. So I think we won't have those types of we won't have those types of championship eras. What we will have is people like long term, like for
Right.
years or for months. And
Yeah.
then, or we might have, something like the UFC. It's like, oh, you win the, championship one pay-per-view, you lose it, you have another match to get back in contention, then you run it back a third time and then you win it again. So it's like within
Yeah.
the span of 12 months
Yeah.
you could be
There's yeah, and
champion
I mean,
twice.
and I don't like, and the problem is now is that like we're in this era of wrestling when it's like you have you have roughly, well, let's say you have 5 to 10 years to prove yourself in the ring.
Right.
And not even just the wrestling aspect, your promos, how you carry yourself, so and so. And so like there's so much more to being champion now than there was back then. And
Yeah.
so it's just a different story. We're different. We're in a different era of wrestling. Not even just we're in the Paul Levesque era. Like, no, we're just flat out in a different era of wrestling when you're not defending it I mean, Liv Morgan she held that title for 200 something days and defended it like 3 or 4 times. I mean,
Yeah.
that's insulting to the quantity versus Gunther, who had the IC for 666 days and he defended it like freaking 2 dozen times, like. And so it's just we're in a different time, and that's okay. It's just those records that sit there. I mean, you have John Cena, Ric Flair at 16. You have Randy Orton and Triple H, I think, at 14. I think and so from there, there's really just a bunch of five and sixers in there. So, the caliber that's on the top five, those aren't gonna be passed anytime soon unless it's by people that are already on the list.
Hmm.
So, but I mean, we'll see. I that's the shtick of it all. Is this we got Monday Night Raw tomorrow, we got SmackDown on Friday, and we got the Royal Rumble on Saturday. And we'll definitely have more to unpack next week. Hopefully Tim's back.
Oh, he will be.
And so we'll be back at full strength to get not only me and Frederick's opinions, but Tim's as well, because Tim is all about responding. So I didn't know, but no, like I think like the fact that we all three have different opinions on things and we all like that's what makes this podcast work. Me and Frederick could talk all day, but Tim might have some insight that might be like, oh, I guess that makes sense. So,
Yeah, definitely.
so we'll put a pin in this as we do, and so I thank you for all of you that have been along this ride for the, basically a year. Like we're doing seasons like every 26 weeks. So this is essentially episode 53, which that's a lot. So if you want to ballpark it, that's like over 60 hours of content. So let that sink in. Okay. That's a lot of movies. But
It is.
you know, but yeah, so thank you for the ones that have been along for the ride. I think we're at like 34 subscribers. Hopefully we get some more. I would love more people to weigh in on our videos. Um just because I want something to debate. Okay. I like, and I get it. There's a couple that, have responded on the YouTube and stuff like that. And, I mean, you know what? We're fresh, but we're not fresh. Okay. Like I've been doing the podcast thing for about 2 years. Really, always been doing a live thing for obviously a year. So, but appreciate the ones that are along for the ride. And if you really feel inclined, I did drop a link to our store if you want some Lockdown Podcast merch. It's just the logo on front and the back says Let's Talk Wrestling. So, if you feel inclined, I'd appreciate it. I mean, it's pretty simplistic gear. So, stickers are cheap, hoodies or whatever. We got shirts, long sleeves, tote bags, whatever. So put that on the link here on the YouTube. Feel free to check it out. So we will see you guys next week with more nonsense. We obviously have Royal Rumble, so we are going to have a lot to talk about. So Raw and SmackDown will probably be pretty secondary unless we're talking about who's declared themselves for the Royal Rumble. So, as it, this is the Lockdown Podcast. Peace.